Welcome everyone to the third Thursday meetup of the West Orlando WordPress meetup group. I am Rob Watson, a co-organizer and host. West Orlando WordPress is an official WordPress meetup group and is affiliated with the main WordPress Orlando and WordCamp US meetup groups. Creating a business around popular WordPress content management systems is just as much about strategy as it is about talent. It starts with having a valuable product or service and then having a way to sell it. In this presentation, you'll gain an understanding of WordPress technology essentials, common plugins, and add-ons to include on client websites, creating a business to serve website design clients, and principles for success. Our presenter, Cory Keith, has been programming computers ever since middle school and has always been fascinated with technology and is passionate about creating software solutions that help people be more efficient with their time. After graduating from UCF with a major in criminal justice and a minor in computer science in 2005, he started the digital media production company Third Oak Productions LLC with longtime friend and business partner Marcelo Carvalho, which he currently conducts business under today. Cory started working full-time for his own company in January 2020 and has been helping small businesses grow not only in Florida, but all around the US. He specializes in creating, updating, transferring, maintaining, and managing WordPress websites, which is currently the company's primary source of income. In addition to WordPress, Cory is skilled in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, MySQL, and PHP, and maintains his skills in managing backend hosting solutions for clients. Cory is growing his company larger each day and has visions of connecting WordPress with other technologies, ultimately helping businesses grow more efficiently. At this point, I'd like to invite everyone to mute their microphones for the presentation. And Cory, thank you for being our presenter this evening. The time is now yours.
Yeah, every now and then I may ask a question. If anybody wants to pop up and answer that, that would be great. I do like to talk, with everybody. So what this presentation is about, creating a business with WordPress. Again. Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me on today. It's funny, I never thought that I would be able to go full-time on my own when I first started my company, Third Oak Productions LLC. It was kind of just, I just did a side gig, and I started creating websites for businesses, and I created small programs here and there, and then and as well as full-on websites. It wasn't until that I was able to learn WordPress that I was really able to build things a lot quicker than how I was used to. So we'll get into that a little bit. And if the presenter, if you have a question or anybody has a question, go ahead and type it into that chat box as well, and we'll get questions at the end. So here we go. Here's a little bit about me. My name is Cory Keith. I'm a former deputy sheriff. I honorably retired in 2018 with 13 years of service. I'm the co-owner of Third Oak Productions. I create WordPress websites. We also do web apps, mobile apps for businesses. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, there's my email address, ckeith@thirdoakpro.com. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I've been running my business since 2009, but I started working. It was kind of like a side gig. I would just get these small, jobs here and there. But I started working for myself full time last year in 2020. So it's been a full year of me supporting myself using WordPress. It's our primary source of income, not our entire source of income, but our primary source of income. And currently, WordPress is our main source of income. What is needed to create a business? So it's funny, like a lot of people sometimes get lost in the shuffle with everything, and there's so many apps, there's so many things that people think they need to implement, and really it's just two things at the core of it that you're going to need. You're going to need a valuable product or service and sales, someone that could reach out and get new clients in some way. When I retired back in 2018, so from 2018 to 2019 and the beginning of 2020, I took a sales position for a law enforcement software company. And it was a great fit for me because I've been in law enforcement my whole life, and I always had this drive towards the end of that career to be in the private sector. And I knew that in order to really be a successful business owner, I had to know sales in a sense. So I took a sales position that I sold law enforcement software to law enforcement agencies across the country. And it was great experience. Some of it was cold calling in a sense, but a lot of it was like hand holding the client through the process to the final sale. And then on top of that, I was working hand in hand literally with the CEO. It was a small company. It's about 10 people total in the company. And I would help them with their technology because their actual CTO was so busy trying to maintaining their software that the software for sales and other areas of the company kind of were lacking. So I was able to help them with that. On the side, that's when I really started advancing, reaching out to clients and getting more WordPress websites up and running for them. So in this discussion, we're just gonna talk about really high level, like really, we're not gonna get too deep into, or I'm not gonna get into coding or anything like that. I understand a lot of people in this group are kind of they come from two backgrounds, either the blogging background where they, the non-technical side, you all come in, you love blogging and you learned WordPress because of that. And then there's the other side where you have more technical people who like to get in the back end. That's kind of where I fit in. And I do like to get into the nitty gritty WordPress, with the child themes, adding PHP code, CSS code, working in the back end. So we're just going to get into a little bit understanding the WordPress technology, the plugins and add-ons. I'm going to, tell you what I use, and please feel free at the end to ask me about anything that I use, and I'll share with you as much as I can. And the business side of it, what you need to actually create a business, and just a few principles for success. All right, wonderful. So now in this page, I'm going to go through the technology in the back end that's used to create a WordPress website. You could think of this page as kind of optional, but if you don't know this technology, the best thing you could do is just write down what it is, just so you understand it. I do recommend that there's so many like online classes now that if you don't know any one of these things, you may want to just take a real basic course about how it works. It does help in understanding how WordPress works, but again, this is kind of like an optional page. So you could break down what's going on with two sides, the client side. And the client side is any device that is seeing your WordPress website. So that could be a desktop computer, a laptop, a tablet, a phone. And this is what's running on the browser. So either Chrome or Firefox or Safari or whatever browser that the person is using. HTML. So I highly recommend, if you don't know HTML, you put in, that's the content, the actual content. So if this page were a WordPress website, the actual content would be the heading, the WordPress technology, learning from the ground up. It would be, all the text that you see on the page. So the text and the structure, that's HTML. Now, you can't make HTML look pretty without cascading style sheets, and that's what CSS is. And that's what styles the HTML. So again, if this were the web page, then the CSS would style it so we have the indentations in the bulleted list here. We have the colors that you see on the page and the format of where things are on the page. That's all through CSS, the spacing, stuff like that. Then there's JavaScript. And what JavaScript does is it's a programming language on the client-side computer. So when you see stuff flying across your screen, you see stuff appearing, disappearing, any kind of programming language type stuff that's taking place right on your screen in real time. That's the JavaScript. And JavaScript is really neat because then it could communicate. It could help communicate also with the backend. Now, so you could think of all that as the client side that runs on the client's device. Now, the server side runs in your hosting company. So when you buy hosting, you have the server side, and this technology runs on your server. So you have the server-side scripting language, which is PHP. It's a programming language specifically. This programming language, the people that built WordPress coded it in PHP. That's how you could think of PHP is. It's actually the language that's creating and generating everything that you see in WordPress. And how it works is the code executes on the server, and then the code then pushes to the client's browser. And then also once it's pushed to the client's browser, there could be more communication between the browser and the PHP without even refreshing the screen through JavaScript. There's technology called Ajax, and there's communication that could happen between the JavaScript and the PHP that doesn't require a whole page refresh. And then the database. So it's a SQL-based database. Some clients use MySQL, PHP. MyAdmin is another type of a program that is a database type program that connects with the PHP and is easy to speak with. Now, you have two things on your hosting. You have all your files where all the WordPress files are stored, and then you have information also in the database. So there's a lot of information both in the files and on the database. Both that information together comes together to create your WordPress website. So if you ever do like a website transfer, what's happening is you need to transfer all your files as well as the database, the information in the database too. A lot of times, if you're not into coding, people kind of use plugins to do that. I don't like using plugins when I transfer complete sites. I actually do it on the back end, so I get like a clean version of the site if I have to duplicate it or move it anywhere. So that's just the technology involved. I do recommend kind of understanding it, but again, it's not mandatory. Okay, so getting more into WordPress technology, what are you actually going to need? And I'm sure a lot of you out there already have this and have secured this, but I'm gonna go through it real quick and give you some maybe tips that maybe you didn't know about before, and some stuff I've learned as well along the way. You have to have a domain registrar. So a domain registrar, a famous example is GoDaddy, and a lot of people when they start out they use GoDaddy. GoDaddy has branded themselves very well. They're very popular in a sense because they have good marketing. But just keep in mind, they're probably not the cheapest. A lot of people, including me, I started with GoDaddy, and then I moved on to other registrars. And now when I say a registrar, that could be separate from your hosting. Most of the time, most people that buy hosting, they're like, oh, well, I bought my domain and hosting together with the same company. It doesn't mean you have to. You can separate them. They could be in a separate place. So one that I use right now is Namecheap, and I use them because their registers, they cost $10 per .com domain per year, and that includes privacy. So, for example, GoDaddy, last time I checked, after the promotional year, every hosting and registrar gives you a promotional year the first time you sign up, and then the years after they charge you the regular rate. So GoDaddy's regular rate, including privacy, is around like $30. So this is $10 for every year, and they've maintained their prices kind of low. So I use Namecheap for my registrar. Now you're going to need a hosting account, and what the hosting account is it has your files that your WordPress website is stored on. You have the database, and there's a bunch of other programs that are running on your server. So I use and this is just an example of how it can be split up. Like your domain, your hosting could be in two separate areas or two separate companies. I use a hosting service called tmdhosting.com. I recommend, most all of them are now have moved on to from hard drive storage with the spinning hard drives to SSD cloud storage, which is solid state device, solid state drive, where solid state drives go a lot faster. And I buy reseller accounts on there. And what's great about them is they give their own each space. They give their own cPanel account. So you could, if a client is like real technical and wants to have access to their own cPanel, you could do that through a reseller account. And you could, it gives you an amount of cPanels. It says, okay, in this account you have 25. You know, again, this tmdhosting.com is more for the technical people like me in a sense. I know there's, if you don't want to get as technical, another hosting provider is SiteGround. I know Brian and I were talking about that before. SiteGround is good. They're going to charge you more because they kind of do more for you. So, you know, that's kind of how it is. The easier it is to use, kind of usually, and this is maybe not all the case, but usually the more they kind of charge you, the more technical you have to get with it. They charge you less, which is good if you're, you know, if you're have other clients and you want to get other clients in your hosting, but you have to have a little bit more technical knowledge. A2 Hosting is another one that another developer friend of mine uses. Highly look into that. A2 Hosting, I think, is a little bigger. Actually, TMD Hosting is a company that's based here in Orlando. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but yeah. So there we go. And then you can also separate your DNS. I would highly recommend using what's a CDN, which stands for Content Delivery Network. And what a CDN does is, let's say you have your website on a hosting, and you have, you know, 100, 1,000 people try to hit your server. Your server has to serve your website to all of them, and you could be running caching to speed that up. And you know, there's a lot of ways to speed that up. What a content delivery does is it takes your website and it puts it on its network. And its network is usually global on content delivery networks. So let's say your server is in Orlando, Florida here. You know, somebody in Tampa that's connecting to it may, you know, it may be great. But if somebody's, you know, in England or something trying to connect to it, it's better to have a CDN, because when they connect to it, it doesn't have to come all the way here. It just has to connect to the CDN network, which is they usually have a local place globally. So a CDN that I use is cloudflare.com. It's actually free. The free version is pretty much all the version that you're going to need with it. And it doesn't take really any technical knowledge to set it up. It just asks you a few questions that you find on your hosting account. You really see an increase of speed when you use a content delivery network like Cloudflare. There's other paid ones that advertise faster than Cloudflare. I think Cloudflare kind of has that Google mentality of make it free and then get a lot of people on it, and then it's easier to charge more or for extra services, I guess. But a lot of people use Cloudflare. You'll notice even, you know, very robust systems use Cloudflare. They're huge and they're all over the world. So yeah, places your website and servers worldwide. And it also does provide extra security in a sense of your DNS, security of your DNS. And I looked into this, like, is the paid version any better? And I couldn't find it where it is. I could be wrong. If anybody has any opinions about that, please let me know. Okay, so WordPress Technology, hosting a website. So in your hosting, what are you going to see? You're going to see most what are called LAMP stack servers run Cpanel, which what Cpanel is it's literally an interface to your server. If you didn't have Cpanel, you would have to know like command line code to do stuff on your server, which I've done before, but you don't want to have to do that. So Cpanel is a panel that is a graphical user interface for your server, which is great. Yeah, so in that went kind of backwards, but if you have an account like a reseller account, with TMD hosting and a lot of other hosting companies use this, you're going to use what's called Web Host Manager, and you could manage each one of your clients' WordPress install, and you could have them all in a list. And it's real easy to create a new one. Or let's say your client leaves, instead of have to go in and erase, everything in your database and your files, you could just delete the whole cPanel account, and in the server it just deletes that all. So a Web Host Manager is great if you have access to that, or if your hosting provides you access to that. Okay, so in cPanel you have your file manager where your WordPress files live. Basically, there's two places where your WordPress where your WordPress site lives. You have that file manager, and then you have the database. This is all the information that generates your WordPress website. Another thing to look at is in cPanel. One question that people keep asking me is, like, how do I know if a client's getting too much traffic or they're using too much resources and we have to bump up their hosting to a new hosting level? Where, well, if you look in the resource usage, it gives you all these different graphs and everything, and it tells you if it's limiting the server's resources for this particular install. And you could see when the graph gets really big and it kind of clips out, and sometimes servers will even stop working and you'll have a full website crash if too many people try to hit a site and things like that. So you could always look at that resource usage. If it's completely full, if it's hitting its limits all the time, then you may need to bump up the client's hosting to a new level, and you need to reach out to them and a lot of times charge more for that. I absolutely do that as well. In the resource, you'll see the CPU usage. You'll see I/O usage, which is the input and output of the server. This is also, and this information, what kills me is that a lot of the hosting providers, they don't advertise this information. They say, oh, you have unlimited storage, you have unlimited bandwidth, but the CPU usage and the I/O usage is the first thing that usually limits WordPress sites and other websites when you have a lot of traffic. So just keep in mind those metrics. So some plugins and add-ons. So we'll first talk about paid services versus free services. I'm sure everybody here, when you first used WordPress, you didn't know how to use it, so you started with the free services. And there's a lot that are great. And then you could make a really good website just with free services. But over time, you'll see the value that you're going to get for paid services. Within the past couple of months, actually about 6 months in from last year when I first started, I realized that, it's better just to buy like WP Rocket for caching, because it works so much better than the other ones. And it's so easy for me to configure now. It's literally just a file that I upload into it, and it literally configures it all for me. So sometimes, free services are great, but sometimes that paid service is worth it for plugins. So highly recommend looking at paid plugins. Some of them have great deals. Like if you buy the largest package or whatever, you just have to buy it one time and it's a lifetime access. I don't even see like the pricing model and how that works on a long-term scale for some of these companies that do that. Most now charge like an annual fee per month, and this all needs to be included when you are, when you're pricing websites out to clients. You want to make sure that you're pricing them well enough that all this is included in there. So experiment with themes and plugins. The two top themes right now are Divi and Elementor, at least in my opinion. There may be some other up-and-coming ones if anybody wants to reach out or say any more later on. But I have bought the Divi, and the reason why I went with Divi is because it has that deal where you pay one price for a developer license and you don't have to rebuy even every year. I bought it and I have it for life now. So I could make, and it's unlimited installs as many WordPress websites as I want. And Divi is a little slow at times, and but they get better all the time. They have great support. Elementor is also a really, really good theme. A lot of people use that, and a lot of developers use that as well. It's really responsive, so it's really like clicky, and it almost feels and acts like a Windows program because it's so responsive. But they probably have a little bit better design, I would say. But the only thing with Elementor is it is more expensive. You do have to, I believe, pay every year per the amount of websites that you have with it. And those are both paid themes, by the way. I just want to put that out there. And emailing from your website. This is something that is sometimes very, very tricky. They don't make emailing from your website easy. I highly recommend that you get your clients, if they are paying for a service like Google Workspace, which is formerly known as G Suite. They just recently changed the name to Google Workspace. And I use it for my business. Basically, it's like $6 per user per month. And what you get is that person's WordPress website, and as well as in addition to the emails that they're sending out, the website could send up to 1,000 emails a day, and it goes on the Google servers. You can authenticate those emails so it looks nice and really professional when their clients get an email from their WordPress website. And you're going in Google servers, so it's super fast. And this is an SMTP service, by the way. Another SMTP service is SendGrid. They have a free account where you could do up to 100 emails per day. Highly recommend doing that if your client does not want to pay for an email service. You can just hook the website up to SendGrid, and they could get an email like admin at their domain.com, and the WordPress will send out those emails through the SMTP, and it could send out up to 100 emails per day. So that's more than enough usually that the site would send out. Caching. So caching plugin, again, I mentioned before, WP Rocket. I've looked at website after website that reviews caching plugins. WP Rocket, it does actually perform the best. There are some things like it can't do. Like, for example, if your server uses Lightspeed caching, it can't really take full advantage of Lightspeed. There's actually a plugin called Lightspeed Cache that can. But 9 times out of 10, WP Rocket is going to be the fastest option. It is a paid plugin. You can't even find this if you search for it in plugins. You have to go to their website, and if you buy it, you have to download it from their website and then upload it into WordPress. I'm sure a lot of people use that as well. Security is becoming huge. Like a lot of people, including me, we used to not even care about security. The first thing that came out was SSL certificates. We want to make sure that your sites are secure using SSL certificates. And what that does is it adds the HTTPS on the domain. And what that is doing is, it's encrypting any information that's going from the user's browser to the server and back and forth. That's fully encrypted information. So for example, if you have a WordPress website and you don't have an SSL certificate and you have to log in using your username and password, well, guess what? That username and that password is being sent through the internet in plain text. Like an attacker can log in and they could have what's called a packet sniffer, and they could go in and they could pull and see your username and password when you send that through WordPress. So I highly recommend, if you don't have SSL certificates on your client sites, that's a major thing. I know it's Google is using that as if you don't, they're ranking you lower in search engine pages and stuff like that. So I could see in the near future, hopefully, that they're almost going to require that every site have an SSL certificate. That best practices, that you have your login secured, that you do regular updates on your site. The newest version of WordPress does have automatic updates. It used to be where you didn't want to do automatic updates that much because an automatic update may break your site. If your most reputable plugins, if you're using a really reputable plugin, it's not going to break. Recently, I have had client sites WP Rocket updated and it did break a site. That was a huge thing with WP Rocket, and they made sure that they updated quickly so that doesn't happen. But I recommend that doing automatic updates on your websites, especially your plugins. And you could actually, most people don't know this, but if you go into updates, there's a hyperlink that you could click in WordPress that says, get me the most recent version of WordPress. If you don't like that, you could click the button again and it says update, send me only the security patches and fixes of WordPress automatically. And then you would have to do the big updates when they update to a new version of WordPress. You would have to do that manually. There's a lot of security plugins out there. I've went through a few. I didn't go through all of them. It seems like the one that works the best for me and my clients is WordFence. WordFence, I've been using the free version. The free version has pretty much everything that you're most likely looking for. If you think your client has a security attack to it, they do have a service. It's like $500 that they will actually clean it out for you, your whole website. And then you could buy the premium plugin. It's like $99 a year per site. And then if you have multiple sites, they reduce the rate. I'll be honest, I haven't had to pay for the premium version of WordFence yet. I may in the future, but it's a great plugin. It actually puts a firewall on there. We were talking about this beforehand. You can even do two-factor authentication for your admin accounts through WordFence. So I highly recommend that. And also there's a plugin called HTTP headers. It protects, you have to know how to set it up. It gets a little technical, but it does protect your site against cross scripting attacks, basically where it's acting like it's pulling information for your site for another site. So that kind of blocks that. If you actually ever go to at the top and you do a site review of your site in WordFence, it says when you log in, it says, is your site good or does it need improvement? If you click on that button, it will tell you that some HTTP headers need to be fixed. So that plugin with the right configuration can fix that for you. Okay, moving on. So now talked about WordPress. Now some keys to creating a successful business. I see a lot of people falling into some of these traps, so we'll just go through them real quick. Number one step is, a lot of people start doing work for businesses and other people, and they start doing it personally, and they charge people through the Venmo or these other little like Cash App and stuff like that. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend separating yourself legally from a business. Basically, I'm not a tax professional. I'm not a lawyer. Please seek that on your own. But there is liability in taking making sites, websites for people. And anytime you want to do business, you want to do business legally. So I would recommend seeking a CPA, seeking maybe even a lawyer, and just creating a legal business wherever you're from. In Florida is a pro-business state. It's really super easy to set up businesses, but I bought a book in order to do it years ago, how to create an LLC in Florida. That's what I did. And I started from there, but I highly recommend that you create a business. Find an accountant. A CPA is literally a must. So find a good CPA that you can sit down and talk to about what your plans are and what you want to do. You can form, and that's another thing. You don't want to like if you notice, my company's name is Third Oak Productions LLC. It's very a general business. You don't want to get too specific because there are avenues that you may want to go with your business. So you just kind of want to keep it general, and get a business checking account. So once you create a business, you get an EIN, and that EIN, you create a business checking account, and all your business can go through that checking account. You don't have to, and you can keep your business assets and your personal assets completely separate. This is just a real brief overview of everything. There's a lot of details, obviously, and all this stuff, but this is just kind of like the main setup that you'll walk through. And then make sure you pay yourself correctly and legally. You want to make sure that you do taxes correctly for yourself, so you're not caught in any kind of legal binds. Again, seek your own legal help with this. Pricing. This is another interesting topic that a lot of people don't know how to price. And there's actually been some more recent news that we'll go over in here, and that may help you with pricing WordPress websites, especially if you're customizing them from the ground up. Number one, this is a pitfall that a lot of people fall into. They don't charge enough. Literally, a friend of mine who does websites for people, he was literally charging to create the website. He would host it himself, and then he forgot to charge for hosting. I mean, he was kind of young, and and realized that starts building up quick. So you want to make sure with me, I always make sure I charge my clients an initial payment to build the site or to modify the site if they just want it modified, and then also a separate yearly or monthly price that you're charging for maintenance if they need that, for hosting if they need that, to re-register their domains if they want you to do that. And you always want to have pricing models that they could, some clients say, oh, I have my own hosting, I'll manage that, I just want you to do the WordPress site. And then other clients say, I don't know how to do anything, I want to create, I want to use this domain, and I don't know anything about hosting, do it all for me. So I have all sorts of pricing models for every skill level, if that makes sense. So here is something, and you all could Google this. I put a link here where this is an article about this. So WordPress.com, they put out a statement. So I just want to make sure everyone understands this. WordPress.org and WordPress.com are two different places. WordPress.org is the open source version of the software where you could download that version and upload it to your own hosting. It's open source, so it's completely free to use, completely free to update. And then WordPress.com is the paid version where it's literally its own domain registrar, its own hosting account, and people, even non-skilled users, could go on to WordPress.com and create their own WordPress website. And they do charge, obviously, for domains and hosting. And now WordPress.com, it's super limited in what you could do. They do have pay scales. And if you want to get a little technical with it, I don't recommend doing it that route. I recommend getting your own hosting and using the open source version of the software. So WordPress.com, and they came out and said that they're going to start charging $4,900 for a custom website. Now, you may want to look at that number and say, am I charging enough for my customers? And this may be priced high for what you do, it may be priced low, but this could be, just a general 5-page website, that somebody wants custom, and this is the prices that WordPress.com is going to charge. I would definitely look into this and always keep this stuff in mind, what other people are charging and what other people are putting out there publicly, and obviously what people are paying for the service. But I see a lot of WordPress builders, they're not charging enough for the product that they're giving. Also, just keep in mind, the more you know technically about WordPress, the more you're able to charge, and the more of the profits that you're able to keep, because you're going to use less hosting for hosting or domains. You could do a lot of that stuff on the back end yourself. So just want to keep that in mind. Again, larger the website, larger the cost. You want to have pricing models, because you have people that come in and say, hey, I want a 5-page website. Oh, now I want to expand it to a 7-page. Now I want to add, a WooCommerce store to that. And, that's all great. Clients, they could do whatever they'd like to their website, but, the more I'm going to charge for those initial builds. And then make sure that you're charging for updates and maintenance. Charge you anything for the website if you are logging in, unless I said, for me and my clients, unless it's an error on my part or there's an error on the site, and even still, they after a certain period of time, then they have to buy my maintenance package in order to have continued support with me. If I need to log in the back end of me anyway, if I need to put that username and password in and log in, you got to charge, and you got to charge for it. Anything. Okay, so this is my pricing model. If you guys want to follow it, cool. I charge currently, and I actually may start increasing this rate. I charge $79 a month for 1 hour of updates, and that's an auto charge. So so I have documentation that I provide to them that they fill out. They sign a piece of paper saying that I'm allowed to charge them $79 per month. I get that back from them. That's only for 1 hour of updates per month. Usually, if a business wants a little bit of change here and there, that's enough. And then if they want additional hours, that's $99 an hour. If they don't want this package, I charge even more. I charge actually $119 an hour if they don't go with this package. So that's my prices. Let me know your thoughts on that. I'd love to know what you guys are charging as well. And then I let them also, they could pay that yearly if they don't want to have that auto charge. They can be paid yearly by invoice or auto charge with a credit card per month. So here's some principles for success I want to share with you guys. Understand the product. You could nowadays literally get a client. If you had somebody that was good in sales, they could get new clients to build a WordPress website. You could get on sites like Fiverr and Upwork and find a good team of people actually to build it for you. And you could literally just act as a middleman and build websites for people. Before I do that, I make sure I understand the technology and what I'm providing to the client so that I could change it quickly if something's wrong or it needs to be changed quickly. That's me and my principles. I like to understand at the core what I'm delivering to my client. And I like to be able to go on there, and if they have a problem, I can say, I can fix it for you really fast. Understand sales. There's a process. If you're getting angry with your clients for any reason, I think that usually the case is there's probably a problem with your process. Usually I create an entire process or machine that kind of they go into, and I give them options through that process that they have choices and choose through that process. So if something happens and you're getting upset with a client, now I understand there's clients out there that are very frustrating to work with. There's even clients where I understood they were so frustrated that it was just easier to give the money back and say, I can't help you. I hope you find a developer that can, and move on from that client. But have a sales process in there that for 9% of the people they're going to be successful in, and it is a hand-holding process. And you do need to guide them almost a lot of times every step of the way. Charge for your expertise. The more you know, the more you can charge. So, and if you have free time, learn more about WordPress. Take an online class. Even if you don't want to pay for that, there are so many YouTube videos that can tell you how to do details in your WordPress website. This is one of the major things that I see, major pitfalls I see people fall into. Define the scope of your project from the beginning. It prevents what's called, I love this term, scope creep. I'm sure you've had all these clients before where you say, yeah, I'll build a website for you. And then you think it's a 3-page, and then they're like, oh, yeah, but we wanted a 5-page. Make sure you're defining the entire site from the beginning when you give the quote. Some people like to have a separate contract where they sign that. Some developers I see just have an invoice, but in that invoice, it's super detailed about what they're doing for the client and what is included within the project. And if it's not in that invoice, letting your client know, hey, there may be stuff that you like that you want to implement. Just know that will you'll have to charge more for that. And let your client know that from the beginning so there's no surprises. I saw this on a post a while back. A lot of people, we get in the habit of kind of spending our time to save money. And an example of this would be couponing, like spending your whole day finding a coupon and then going and getting like 50 cents off, when you could have just paid for it and saved your time. Like I'm I believe that your time is way more valuable than money, because think about it. At the end of the day, like, you could always get more money. You can't get more time. We only have a certain amount of time in the day. So I'm more in the habit now of spending money to save me time. So with business, sometimes easier. It's like this: instead of even deciding to buy something that may take you all day to decide to buy something, if it's cheap enough and if you think it's going to fix it, just buy it and see if it does. If it doesn't, it's a little small investment that you've learned now and you can move on from. I've maintained this concept, and it's worked for me, and it may work for you as well. So that's pretty much it with my presentation. I'd love to take on questions. Please contact me if you need help with your WordPress project. If you have a quick question about anything, feel free to email me. My email address is right there, ckeith@thirdoakpro.com. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you, happy to guide you in the right direction. I see you guys, other developers, as we're all kind of in this together. We're all kind of surviving together. So any of those questions, I can help you with. But if you need me to do something for you, of course, I would charge you, as of anybody else, to completely do like a site transfer or anything that you need like that. But I'm here in this community, and I love to give advice and help people and point people in the right direction. And if you want to meet with me and you want to schedule just a one-on-one with me, I'm doing that for you guys in this group right now. And you could go right there at thirdoakpro.com/Cory. And even in people who are watching this later on, if you all want to schedule, an hour with me, and we could talk about flaws that's happening with your company and that you need help in a certain area, I'll be happy to get on, with a meeting with you, and we could do that. I do have a lot of solutions like this. If you do want to click on that link just to see what happens, basically I have Calendly connected to my that's a WordPress website that you're seeing, and that you could schedule me without having a back and forth. That's my actual real schedule that's updated through Google Calendar. And so I don't have to update it. I don't have to log into WordPress to update it. All I do is update my Google Calendar, and that calendar updates, and then we could talk, and I'll have availability for you.